Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the 5th round already of the Superprestige which took place in Boom. Issam, thank you for once again making the time to join us and discuss the racing.
Yes, thank you for having me. I had the time, so why not, eh?
I can't imagine why not, because I'm pretty excited. Boom is one of my favorite races. I love the course, it's wide, I think it has a lot of potential. Furthermore, I love the overlap between just when the cycling visits anything else. I mean, Boom is the venue of Tomorrowland. I like it when there's an overlap with something else. I love it when road cycling goes to a motor circuit. I love the finish in the Tour de France, the third stage from the fourth stage, which finished on circuit there. I love stuff like that. Or when the Tour visited Spa-Francorchamps, or even better, Cyclocross visiting Spa-Francorchamps. So yeah, I always love that, and it is really the most wonderful time of the year. It feels like yesterday we were talking about those US CX Series races, but now it's here. It's December. Next week, Wout van Aert comes back. The week after, Tom Pidcock comes back. The week after that, Mathieu van der Poel comes back. We are well and truly cooking now. It's busy times coming up, but pretty exciting ones, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the riders will definitely will be overcooked probably after the month of December, going into January with the nationals then at that time. But yeah, it's going to be busy, and so will we probably, because every race will probably get its episode, its podcast. So there will be a lot to talk about and a lot to go through in the next coming weeks.
Let's start by going through the racing in Boom, the men's race. No Lars van der Haar, no Pim Ronhaar, but we did have Jens Adams at the start, and he had the best start and led for the first part of the lap, but he quickly got overtaken by Joris Nieuwenhuis, the man who skipped Dublin last week when training in Spain, put in those miles, but he was well and truly on fire again. This was the Nieuwenhuis we saw before he went. This was the Nieuwenhuis we saw in Merckxplas. He put on the pressure, ripped everything apart. Iserbyt and Nijs dropped. Mason was the one able to stay closest for the longest while, but Nieuwenhuis, once he had a 10-second gap on Mason, he never really gave that final punch to Mason. One mistake and Mason could come back. The gap went down to 5 seconds, it went up again to 10, it went 12, we went back to 6, but ultimately Nieuwenhuis was the strongest. Mason could never really close that gap and was always hanging just behind. He could see his prey, but he could never catch it. Nieuwenhuis took the win, his second Superprestige win in a row, ahead of Cameron Mason with a strong second place. The third place battle was pretty interesting. First, Nijs and Iserbyt were riding for third place. They got swallowed by a bigger pack, including Michael van Toerenhout. Then they pulled away again from that pack, got caught again, and ultimately Iserbyt pulled away from that pack, was at risk of being caught again in the penultimate lap, but managed to take that third place. So the podium, Nieuwenhuis, Mason and Iserbyt. Boom, despite a couple of technical features, is pretty much a power course. It was not that muddy. Nieuwenhuis, Mason, both riders we've seen do well on power courses this season, Issam. Nevertheless, I think it's no coincidence that we see Nieuwenhuis and Mason, two riders who have had a bit of rest after the European Championships, both have done a bit of training, that those riders are doing well now, whereas Iserbyt, who we would expect here, seem to be not having the greatest of days, and I think it makes perfect sense. Two riders have rested a bit, Iserbyt is just loading with races at the moment.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that, it's not a strange thing for Iserbyt to have a lesser period at the moment, because quite a few races already under his belt, I think 15 or something, so it is not a crazy thought that he is now in a period where he will feel the amount of races that he has done. And, like you said, I think both Nieuwenhuis and Mason didn't do that much racing so far. They took their rest as well. They tried to ease into the season a little bit more. It showcased today for sure. I think Nieuwenhuis definitely is getting better each week, as we have said, and Mason, the same goes for him. I think that he is also growing into this season, and it looks better and better. And they both got a course where they can use their abilities to a maximum in a way. So I think that helped, but definitely the way they had they went through the season so far, the races that they have the freshness compared to an Iserbyt that has done almost every race. There is a difference in that regard, and I think that it's counting at the moment. But for Iserbyt, he's looking good in the Superprestige in the classification. We don't have to forget that, and the World Cup is also looking very good. And in the XO Trophy, he's still playing a big role in that as well, and could potentially win that. So he's looking very good in the big three classifications that we have. Also, in terms of racing, when he starts, a podium is almost a certainty. So I think that it's for him, as we have pointed out many times so far this season, it is really going well for him. The consistency is definitely something that he has worked on if you compare it to his last couple of seasons. And even today, he was talking about it, that he kind of realized that he didn't have the legs to battle Nieuwenhuis and to battle Mason, and then he quickly can change that mindset of trying to go for the win and think about tomorrow, which is also very important for him, Flamanville World Cup, and try to get that third place home. And he did that, and in the classification he looks very good at the moment in the Superprestige.
He does. He has a massive lead. It's over 20 points, and I do still think that despite Iserbyt saying, well, I'm focusing on tomorrow, it's still a sign. I mean, we've seen last week in the Kortrijk Dublin weekend that he was not at his best, and I think today he wasn't at his best either. The best Iserbyt would compete for the win, but you've just named a number of valid reasons why he isn't. Still, if I were Iserbyt, I would start thinking about potentially taking a bit of rest. He said his goal for this season is to win all the classifications. We are coming to that Christmas period. It is insanely packed. A double weekend, Herentals Namur, the weekend after Val di Sole. That's a tough weekend, super tough weekend. But after that, with Mol, he's probably not going to do Mol, because that's an Exactcross. He's probably not going to do Loenhout, because that's an Exactcross as well. But then still we have a large number of classified races. We have 4 World Cups in roughly 2 weeks. In the span of 3 weekends, we have 4 World Cups with 1 midweek. We have 2 rounds of the Superprestige. We have, I think, 2 rounds of the X2O Trophy. That's a lot of racing, and with a lead of 3 points from the top of my head, and 15 points on offer for the winner, if I were Iserbyt, I would probably skip either Zolder or Diegem. And it's a tough decision to make, because both are amazing races, but I would definitely advise to skip one of them, and after tomorrow potentially consider skipping Val di Sole if you are in the possibility to do so, or skipping Namur. It also depends, like he has a 25-30-ish points lead on Ronhaar. What's Ronhaar going to do? I think he's skipping Val di Sole, but I don't have any confirmation. Is Ronhaar going to try and attack that World Cup overall? Then maybe you just have to commit to it and do all of them. But it's things to think about. You can also race Val di Sole and then potentially skip Namur. It's then not to go training in Spain, but it's to just build a bit of rest. Namur is a super tough race. It takes long to recover from that. So it's just stuff to think about for Iserbyt, because we can see now that for Nieuwenhuis, and based on what I've seen, he's been really putting in the mileage. He's doing some big endurance rides in Spain. It's paying off. He was already good once he left for that week and a half training camp, but he's come back looking that tiny bit stronger, and that's really what you can achieve by taking a bit of rest. A bit more freshness, slightly more endurance, bit bigger base, and more importantly, he said that his lower back was holding, and that blocking was kind of what held him back in the first part of the season. So with the weather also going his way, I think we're going to see much more from Joris Nieuwenhuis in the rest of the season. And I think we have to say the same for Cameron Mason, because both riders have only been in an upward trajectory basically ever since the start of the season.
Yeah, I think that's, for Nieuwenhuis, probably Neil was kind of the introduction of what we can expect this season from his side. And we knew that if he would get that little bit more, then he was going to be a threat for the other riders for a podium and even for a win. And, today was a faster course in a way. It was more rideable, but it was still very tough. And, it's a power course, but it is also every lap you just have less and less to work with in terms of what your body can take with those with such a tough course. I mean, he said it very well also in the after the race, the interview, this was kind of his style of racing, and this is kind of his style of racing. Just go at it. If you have a good day, make the best out of it, and try to make sure that you are in the lead, stay in the lead, and try to win. And he just had a very good day. And for Mason, it's just great to see that he made that step that we really wanted to see him make in a way. And that was definitely there. The potential was there, and he's showing it. And it's, from him today was a great ride. Couple of mistakes, but I think that kind of also had to do with the pace and trying to, maybe you just see a couple of times that you get just a little bit closer, and then you just want to do a little bit more, make a mistake left and right. But overall, it was a very solid ride from his side as well, and it's looking good for him as well. And I think it's a matter of time till we see him win. If he gets a course, if he has his day, I definitely think that it is within the possibilities this season for him to get a win in maybe a World Cup or an XO Trophy or Superprestige, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that a win is possible, but it's also becoming more difficult at the same time, because we just listed at the start of the episode the names that are going to start their season soon. We are going to have Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, Tom Pidcock come in. Some of them are doing World, some of them aren't, some of them are undecided. But they're going to be starting a large part of the races, which will pose a challenge for Cameron Mason to do well in the bigger races. There will be opportunities, but they're going to become a bit slim. I don't know if he's doing Val di Sol next week. He's never done it before. I really don't know what his level on the snow is going to be like, but we will need to wait and see for that. And even if he doesn't get a win, there's potential in him. He's a second-year elite. He develops relatively later. He keeps making a ton of progression. So it will be interesting to see what he can do, and just the progression is good to see. Let's take a look at the entire top 10. Then Nieuwenhuis took the win ahead of Mason, Iserbyt and Niels van de Putte. Fifth place was for Michael van Toerenhout ahead of Thibaut Nys, Wietse Meelse, Jens Adams, Thijs Aerts and Jente Michels. Let's highlight what in my opinion is the standout performance of the day, Issam. Niels van de Putte with that fourth place. He was in the mix for a podium for a while. Really got the going in that second half of the race. I thought at some point in the penultimate lap he might still overtake Iserbyt. Iserbyt didn't look to have it there, but repacked himself. Strong ride by Niels van de Putte.
Absolutely, and something you want to see from him in a way. I think that he, it's his second season kind of with the elites, third season in a way, but it's time for him now to have more consistent results and really showcase that potential that he has. And today was a tough race. He showed himself quite well and hold his own. And I think that, like you said, third place was maybe possible, but the fourth place was very strong. And it was, it is just something he is technically is very good. He's very gifted. He has the power in a way. It's just, I think he needs a couple more races and maybe 1 or 2 seasons to really, improve and get that last bit in a way. And there is still time for him. He's still in that younger phase of his career, and the improvement is definitely going to come somehow. And he just has to be patient in a way. But the performances at the moment are very promising, and maybe also in a way needed, because you need these type of performances for the team also to support you. And even if one team pulls the plug in a way, then you can still go to another team because of the results that you have booked. And there's a couple of good results at the moment this season, and hopefully he can hold that pattern and get through the rest of the season in a similar manner, because at the moment it's looking very good for him.
Yeah, I don't think Van de Putte, everybody needs the results, but I don't think he is under pressure in terms of finding a team. Last year his season was good. He got a ton of top 10s as a first year elite, and this year he's kind of continuing on the same trend. He had that very bad race in Dendermonde where he nearly finished 20th, but for the rest he's almost been in the top 10 every race, with exception of Bering in the opener where he was involved in that massive crash on the downhill off Camber. It's been a good season for him so far, and especially on the courses which are slightly more challenging, he seems to be doing fairly well, and today was a continuation of that. Although I wouldn't look into it too much, the fact purely, he beat Michael van Toerenhout. It's a good result. My point is more, Michael van Toerenhout beating him I wouldn't say it's not much of an accomplishment, but we need to account for the fact that Van Toerenhout, who normally does well on a course like this, still suffered with the consequences of that dislocated shoulder in Kortrijk last week. He had some issues. We saw that he wasn't able to jump the barriers, for instance. It's still affecting him from what I heard and saw. But again, I don't want to discredit Niels van der Putten. It's a good result, and that deserves credit. For the rest in the top 10, I mean, I don't think there's that much to go about. Decent result for Thijs Aertsen, Jente Michels, 9 and 10. Interesting that Michels beats Tibor Del Grosso. Del Grosso ended 13th. Del Grosso has been the best U23 rider so far this season. And yeah, I mean, about Nice, I don't want to repeat ourselves. It's an interesting intermezzo where we are now. We're just between the first part of the season and the second part. Tiredness is kicking in. And yeah, Nice should definitely benefit from going to Spain and training on the road there for a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him extend that stay there until Antwerp, that he would skip the World Cup in Namur and the X2 Trophy in Herentals. Finally, to end on the men's side, Gerben Kuipers had a DNF behind his name today, the same for Laurens Sweeck. For Sweeck, we don't know the reason. This is another rider who will benefit from training in the sun of Spain if he does go. I don't know. Sweeck last year was pretty good in Val di Sol. Kuipers, we do know what happened. He is sick, skipping Flamanville and going to train and will return to competition later this month. Then let's go on and talk about the women's race. Unfortunately, not much new here. Puk Pieterse had the fastest start, and in the first lap it actually still looked pretty interesting. Van Empel made a couple of mistakes, was some 12 seconds behind, but then at the beginning of the second lap Pieterse made a mistake. She almost crashed. It was pretty skillful that she managed to stay upright. Her front wheel slipped on a cobblestone in a corner. She managed to stay upright, as said, but the hill that was right after it, she had zero speed, was in the wrong gear, lost all of her lead there. Van Empel flew up and just closed that gap, and then Van Empel overtook Pieterse with a outside line on an off-camber corner, took the lead, and then Pieterse crashed, which meant game over. Van Empel from there on took 20 seconds in the lap, 20 seconds the following lap, and then built a minute's lead on Puk Pieterse, taking her 9th win of the season. I mean, she's getting so used to it, she didn't even know how to celebrate anymore, Issam. She just shrugged, put up 4 fingers, which God knows what it means. I mean, she has 9 wins this season. She has 2 Superprestige wins. I have no idea what it means, but 9 wins this season. Undefeated so far. Fem van Empel. Puk Pieterse was second. The third place went to Annemarie Vorst.
Yeah, I mean, you hope for something else, but it's, it's the situation that we currently have in the women's category, and there's not much you can do about it. The first lap was a little exciting and gave us a little hope, but after the second lap, we kind of knew already where it was going towards, and it just looks so good from Van Empel's side, the way she's riding. I think also technically it looks a little better as well. I think that it's I see an improvement in that. The consistency as well over a course of a lap is also very good, and mature ride. There is not much you can say about it. It's something that we have seen already this season. It's a continuity of what she has been achieving so far. It seems almost like it's getting better and better, and that's probably even the most worrying part. Of course, you know, Pieterse at the moment is in a phase of probably building up the shape, and so it's for her also probably going to be a little bit more difficult to bring up a fight to Van Empel. There is a lot of work for Pieterse to eventually battle it out with Van Empel, and currently it's Van Empel against herself, not making a mistake and trying just to bring the victory home.
Van Empel did make quite some mistakes in that opening lap. It didn't really look good. She was, especially that one where she crashed running, that looked pretty silly. Her start, that's something that can happen from time to time, but nevertheless, it didn't look great in that first lap, and it's kind of interesting how she repacked herself, but for the rest, you're spot on. It's Van Empel versus herself, and she seems to beat herself every single week. I think she's skipping racing tomorrow in Flamanville, and I don't think she's racing next week either, unless she comes to Essen, which would be a joy for you because you could get to see Wout van Aert and Fem van Empel take victories. But yeah, It's good, and as you say, for Pieterse, quite a bit of work to be done. I have noticed that Pieterse is normally a bit of a slow starter to her season. Last year, it took quite some time for her to really get I wouldn't say get the going, because that's disrespectful, because she is going. It's still definitely not bad to end second, but the level that we are expecting from her, that's more than being a minute behind, especially based on last season where we had a couple of great battles between Van Empel and Pieterse. But at the same time, as I said, if you look at last season and partially the season before as well, last year it took until after the European Championships. It took like a month from when she started in Oostenrijk until Overijse for her to get the going. Well, I still said it, get the going. I mean, really get on their steam, really get in that groove. You could still see today there were a number of mistakes which the best Pieterse doesn't make. She said, well, it's my third weekend crossing, I should be comfortable on my bike right now. And I do think there's truth in that, but what I think she's kind of forgetting is normally you start your season when others have recently started their seasons. If you come in like a week or two later, which she did last year, the others not going to hold that much of an advantage over you, because they are also still adapting to racing and making mistakes, and it's always a theme in the first part of the season. Toon Aerts was famous for needing 2-3 races to get fully confident on the bike and in the races as well, and that wouldn't still stop him from making silly mistakes at crucial moments. But now, if you look where Pieterse gets into the season, others have been racing their cyclocross bikes for a month and a half. And you can see how difficult that is, because that's not only Pieterse, Fem van Anrooij, another rider who we had seen actually last year winning a couple of races. She was one of the best riders during the Christmas period, one in Kokzijde, one in Zonhoven. She was one of the main protagonists in that part of the season. She started her season today, or restarted, because she did Beringen, and she also did Waterloo. Where was she? She was 9th today. If you look at Pieterse needing to do work, I think for Van Anrooij it was an even rougher awakening to cross again, because 9th is definitely not where she hoped to finish. This is a rider who has put her eyes on the rainbow jersey at the end of the season. I don't say this is sign to be worried, because if you look at last year when she raced in Tabor, she was not that good at either. She was 7th there, but still, it's a tough awakening for both, I guess.
Yeah, I think for the one more than the other, not really about the result or the gaps, but it's more, I don't know what Van Anrooij wants to do with this season, to be honest. I mean, obviously it's going to improve, and obviously she's going to gain some ground in a way. For her, there's also a lot after the Worlds, and I think that she also wants to make that step on the road. She definitely is someone that, if she just gets that little extra on the road, that maybe she could become a very important rider for Trek. So, it's difficult to say how that is going, and obviously that is what you're getting when you have such talented riders that not only have cyclocross as number one, but also have the other disciplines next to it and want to be good at that as well. And I think that we are seeing kind of that. I think we see a Van Empel that had sort of a great preparation, rolled into the cyclocross season in a way with good shape. Is going through it, picks her races, and it's going well. And with the Pieterse, we just have seen that she took a little bit more rest and came in just a little short, and now has to build up towards the Worlds. And with Van Anrooij, it was, in my opinion, even worse. I don't even know, in a way, I understand why she tried to have that early start of the season and then take a break, but maybe it was a bit unnecessary. And I don't know about the ambitions of obviously you can have ambitions, but if they're realistic is another story. And we shouldn't take too much out of one race. There is still plenty to go, and like you said, there is still a couple of races, couple of weeks to go to grow. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if they will get closer to Van Empel and how much it will be. And we have to just wait and see, I guess. It's the waiting game now, and let's see what the next couple of weeks will bring.
Well, there's definitely a lot of catch-up to be done, and why did Van Anrooij do those early races? Sponsors. Why did Pieterse do Waterloo as an early race? Also sponsors. The initial plan for Pieterse was to only take a break when Van Empel did after Europeans, but she was obviously feeling more tired when she came back from Waterloo and decided to take an earlier and longer rest period. Yes, both have goals in the rest of the year apart from Cyclocross Worlds. At the same time, both riders have said that they are targeting Cyclocross Worlds. That only leads me to conclude that they are going to peak in some way or form for Worlds. But as you say, Van Empel seems to only be focusing on the cross season so far, and it's paying off. It's deserved. If she keeps this up, I think we're going to put this in the list with our Mathieu van der Poel 2018-2019 season, or our Sven Nys 2004-2005 season, maybe our Bart Wellens 2003-2004 season when the Worlds were in Pontchâteau. We might be putting it in the list with that, but so far it's hard to tell what's going to happen, as you say, so there's not much point in endlessly debating it or debating, well, has Van Empel gotten much better, which is also a possibility, but whereas I do think she did become better, a final note I'm just going to make on it, I do still see room for technical improvement on the end of Pieterse in getting more comfortable with the bike. If we look at the entire top 10, Van Empel took the win ahead of Pieterse and Worst. Van der Heijden was fourth ahead of Van Alphen, Betsma, Vasch, Kant, Van Anrooij and Alicia Frank. Already want to mention a few names outside of the top 10. Christine Margerus ended 11th. Weird to see her not wearing the Luxembourg National Champions jersey, but she was racing today for SD Works. Pretty decent result, 11th at the first race of the season. And then I would still like to mention Julia Kopecky and Mirre Knaver, both riders for AG Insurance Next Gen. 15th and 16th are decent results for them. Back to the top 10, I think we should discuss that battle for the podium, even though we hardly saw that battle for third. Worst getting that must be a positive note for her, which she can go forward with, because it has not exactly been going great for her in recent weeks. Her last podium was in Niel, which even then was not great, but everything since Maasmechelen has been a low, and now there finally seems to be some positive note for her.
This is a race that kind of proves that it's that there are just some physical issues in a way, and that, you know, during the race she, you know, there's just something lacking in a way, because I think the form is there, and we have seen it in a couple of races already this season, but it's just I don't know, it was the back or the knee, I forgot which one it was, but it was one of the two, and I think, you know, both are not really areas to have any issues with, especially as a cyclocross rider, and it's just it's not great. It's not great, but today definitely, like you said, is a race that they have to take all the positives out of it, and, you know, just look at it as proof of having good form. And then you just have to hope that in the next couple of races you don't have those issues again. And I think it would be super frustrating in a way to, you know, to go into a race knowing that you have a good form, but just hoping that you go out of it pain-free without any issues. And well, it's tough. It's very tough. But a podium is positive, and you just have to try and make the most out of it, and try to get to the next couple of races with that idea and with that positive mindset, and hope for the best.
Then a final note on the women's race here. I think most of the riders kind of ended where we expected them. Actually, I have two more things. Aniek van Alphen was involved in the big crash in the first downhill. She recovered to 5th place. Last year's winner definitely had a good day, and normally I guess would have even ended on the podium, but still, decent recovery by her. She overtook Blanca Vasch, who was actually running in third for most of the race, but then I think Vasch just completely exploded with a lap and a half to go on the steep running section. The running issues seemed to return to Vasch. It was walking, remounting here because I don't really want to run, I don't have the energy. Where in Antwerp last year, I think it was a different issue. The running technique wasn't there. She just blew up running and was walking at the end of the sand section. Here I think it was just the tiredness of the race that kicked in, because after that there was not much left in the tank for her. But again, she's coming back from a broken collarbone, so I do think she can take a couple of positives from this result. The international cross season is kind of drawing to a close already. Most of the national series are in their final phases. The Toy to Toy Cup had the 6 out of 7 rounds in Helsinki. It was a snowy race where Michal Boros took the win just ahead of Marek Konva. Matej Ulik ended third. Kristina Zemanova took the win in the women's race there. She had a minute and a half lead on Victoria Gladonova and Sofia Ungerova. The racing in the US in Georgia, where Nash Dash, a new UCI race in Georgia, is taking place, is still underway as we record this, so the results from that will come in tomorrow's podcast. And in tomorrow's podcast, Issam, we're going to be discussing the World Cup in Flamanville. It's a venue which is making its return around the Chateau. Thank you for being here today, and look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I would say à demain.
Oui, à demain, Issam. It's going to be a good day. Maybe you bring a French wine for us to drink during the recording.
No drinking from my side, so you have to take care for yourself.
Yeah, no drinking for me either on the job, or maybe just in general. No, it's going to be good. We're going to hopefully be in for a good day of racing. Issam, see you tomorrow, and the same goes to our listeners. Thanks you for listening, and goodbye.